let's start with the Seahawks-Cardinals game, and I'm going to go first because I have a few points I want to make. First off, this doesn't change my opinion on Seattle at all. They're still a Super Bowl contender. There's no question about it. This game doesn't deter how I feel about Seattle. When it comes to that defense, Cardinals defense is awful. Seahawks defense is awful, but the Seahawks defense is awful because no Jamal Adams, ultimately. We talked about this week 1, how Jamal Adams makes that defense a million times better. I'll say they're awful until Jamal Adams comes back. And then when he comes back, I think we'll have a much better discussion and an overall view of what that defense is. But ultimately for me, this is the game that I'm going to look back on as someone who I said all off season, the Cardinals are your team to watch. The Cardinals are a playoff team. And it's been a roller coaster for people like myself who've had that opinion. This game vindicates it for me. Defensively, they are garbage. I am not denying that. They are garbage. But offensively, finally, Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray in this offense has got something going. And I feel like it's going to continue. Christian Kirk is finally playing to a high level. Finally, Chase Edmonds gets the full-time starting job. DeAndre Hopkins is awesome. This offense can function at a high level. And I feel like this is the game where that continues moving forward. Defensively, they hold themselves back, but I call them nothing more than a playoff team at this point. Brandon, you go first on that.
Like, I'm going to continue. I'm going to say the same thing I said on Friday. They don't. I don't see what people are like saying about like this team. Like, yes, Kyler Murray is very good, right? Like, we all know he's a good quarterback. We all know he's going to be a good quarterback in the future, but like, he has one weapon. Weapon.
No, that's the difference. That's the difference.
Robert, he has one weapon.
That's the difference. He has more. Christian Kirk is a real deal. Christian Kirk is real.
Chris Gerald's still good too.
Yes, let's not forget about him.
I'm with Robert in this one. Sorry, Brittany.
They're not a consistent team, though.
Okay, fine, but
offensively, Robert,
I agree with you, but here's my point. My point is that this is the game that starts that consistency.
I don't think so.
I think this is the game that starts that.
Robert, you can't really. I don't think you can really say much about an offense going up against the Seahawks defense right now. As much as I defend the Seahawks defense, they literally have given up 400 yards passing to every team they've played.
Fine, but that's a fair point. But if you look at the expectations going into this game for this Cardinals defense was for them to play like they did tonight, and they did it.
Defense.
Well, I'm talking about the Cardinals. I'm assuming this offense. This Cardinals offense had an expectation to play at this level, and they finally met it. And they should have met it a few weeks ago. They didn't. This is the game that they finally met that, and now I think they're going to continue. I really like Christian Kirk. I think he's finally coming to his own as a receiver. Larry Fitzgerald's been great. DeAndre Hopkins. And honestly, Chase Edmonds is the right back for this team for the next 5 weeks.
This Cardinals offense, in my opinion, got bailed out a couple of times in certain situations. For example, they got bailed out at the end of the game by Benson Mayowa.
Which, by the way, that is a flag because of the Seahawks back in 2013.
When did the NFL become some pussy shit like that?
That's 20. That's 20. They changed that rule in 2015. They changed that rule in 20. They changed that rule in 2015 to prevent the players from jumping over and blocking the kick.
He didn't jump. He got pushed.
He jumped over.
No, he absolutely did. He did not. I watched that play. He did not jump. He did not. A jump is a large, like an actual 2 feet going up and over.
And even if he didn't, and even if he stumbled, it's still leverage. That's why the criteria is leverage. He leveraged over.
Sportsman, in my opinion, it ain't fucking unsportsmanlike.
No, it's not unsportsmanlike. It's leverage. It should just be called leverage.
So why are you calling it unsportsmanlike conduct?
I don't agree with that.
How the hell is that a 15-yard penalty?
I don't agree that it's an unsportsmanlike conduct. I agree that it should be called leverage, and that's it.
I mean,
and leverage should be 15 yards.
But it shouldn't give you. It shouldn't be able to Like something like that should not be able to change a game.
Yes, it should.
No,
That's how it works.
Give you Robert.
Yes, because of the Seahawks in 2013 when they jump over the line, that was a bad play. That was bad.
Robert, that play was great.
Yes, but they changed it for a reason. They changed it for a reason.
Guess what, Robert? In that case, he didn't touch anyone.
He's still leveraged. The call is leverage. So it doesn't matter what
Robert,
he did.
It's not leverage. It's unsportsmanlike conduct.
That's why they should change it in the rulebook to call it leverage.
It should not be unsportsmanlike conduct, and it should not be 15 yards.
It absolutely should be 15 yards.
No, I do not believe, Robert.
You two need a minute to sort this out.
A little bit, because
let's let Shane finish, or let's let Brandon finish his point, and then I'll have Shane go in.
Right. Here's my point. I do not believe that when you have a defense that stops a team to basically end the game at that point, I believe if the Seahawks get the ball back, they manage to do what they
I think
do.
so. I agree.
Game's over.
I agree.
One person's trip should not equal 15 yards. Maybe 5 yards, maybe 10 yards, but not 15.
So let me, before I let Shane go, I want to put out these 2 points just to clear everything up of why this rule exists. This rule exists because of 2013 with the Seattle Seahawks. I believe Earl Thomas jumping over the line. That was considered Cam Chancellor. So the reason for this rule was a safety issue. It was a safety issue according to the league. So they said, okay, we're going to call this unsportsmanlike, which is wrong. It should just be called leverage. So it eliminates people from jumping over and causing injury, which has happened to kickers on these types of plays. So it doesn't matter if he trips. That's why it's called leverage, not jumping over. It's called leverage. There's a reason for it. And again, you can't be upset about a rule that happened because of the Seattle Seahawks.
Well,
that's why the rule change happened.
I can be upset about it because guess what? It was a rule that's in place for people who are trying to jump over. Was he trying to jump over the kicker? Was it the line? Was he anywhere close to trying to jump over the line? No and no. So therefore, it's not a situation that it should be called.
That's why it's called leverage, because even if he leans, if it's a trip, it doesn't matter. Even if he leans, that's why it's called leverage. Shane, I'll let you go ahead.
I think it's some bullshit. That's what it is.
What am I supposed to talk about?
No, you said you wanted to jump in. Go ahead. What are your thoughts on that? No, you said you wanted to jump in. Go.
No, I said, should I give you guys a minute to sort this out?
No, go ahead. Go.
No, I don't. I didn't say that. Did I say that, Brennan?
No.
Either way, go ahead. What are your thoughts on this discussion here? What do you mean? Go.
I don't know. Okay, I'll say a few things. First of all, screw Ken Norton. Get him out of the building. He sucks. I
disagree, but go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I just think it's because as I'm sitting there watching, I'm just trying to think. Okay, well, where are they going wrong? Because they have, all their individual units look fine. They just don't, but they just give up yard after yard after yard and so many points and all this. And so I just feel like it's a coaching thing. I don't know. That's just me. Dan Quinn's unemployed right now. I don't know. Just a thought. But yeah. Because that's, I mean, even though Jamal Adams is out, they shouldn't be doing this poorly week after week when you have guys like Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright and Diggs, Dunbar, whatever. And it's just, I don't know. It's a weird situation. I don't know what to make of it, honestly.
So a couple of things. You say it's a coaching problem. Shane, we talked about this last year with the Seahawks defense, and we talked about the fact that they can't get pass rush. They still can't. I don't have too much of a problem of it this year, considering Jamal Adams could be coming back soon. But
they got some pressure on Kyler tonight.
They did get some, but we talked about it last year, and I was adamant in saying that the pass rush is a huge issue. It still is. Yeah. I think less of it when Jamal Adams is on the field, but even last year we weren't sitting here going, oh, it's a coaching issue. I really think it's a personnel issue by the point that Brandon said. I think it is injuries ultimately. I just can't.
I mean, I think it's a bit of both. I think last year I was still just kind of trying to put my finger on it. And then now I think it's kind of, at least this is the conclusion I'm coming to. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. But I mean, it is probably a bit of both, obviously the injuries don't help, but I mean, when you think about it, the only guy they have out is Jamal and Bruce Irvin, but they have Jordan Brooks in there, and he's been pretty good. So,
well, here's my thing, right? I can't help but just notice that we're getting what's happening is like teams are targeting the middle just a lot. Like they're just dumping it over the middle and going. And you know who we got to shore up the middle? It's exactly the thing that was happening last year. When they were able to, since we play so off the ball, they're just able to dink and dunk it on us. And when we brought in Jamal Adams and Bruce Irvin to shore that up, like you take those away and they're doing it again. I mean, I believe, honest to God, tonight if we'd had Jamal Adams, this game is not even a nail biter.
It's over middle of the third quarter.
Over middle of the third quarter, because the thing is, a lot of the passes that the Kyler Murray was forced to make were just kind of like what he could take. He was like, oh, middle of the field. And like you go back to that big 33-yard run that the Cardinals broke off to take it down to kick the field goal that ended up getting iced, and they iced themselves, whatever.
It was more a play clock issue, but either way.
Right. But I think if you have Jamal Adams there, he's going to stuff it. He's going to, like, anybody trying to go right up the middle, Jamal Adams will be like, no, I'm sorry, you're not going anywhere. So at the end of the day, like, look, some people are going to be like, oh, you're just making excuses. But, like, here's the problem, right? The defense, they showed it again tonight. Like, the Cardinals were on the goal line, like, 3 times. And we stopped them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like the defense is terrible. As I said on Friday, they are good for what they are currently. Like a team, a group of there are a bunch of third stringers in there,
Mm-hmm.
like, and it's a problem. What I really want to know is, where the hell is Russell Wilson's head at?
Did you have a problem with him tonight? Because he won the MVP tonight.
3 interceptions.
He won the MVP for me tonight.
All those interceptions were bad interceptions.
No, they were bad, but he won the MVP for me tonight.
Especially that last one.
But here's the problem, Robert. He had a great game overall, but like, holy shit, if you don't throw those interceptions, we win the game.
So
Two of them were in the red zone, and one of them was what sealed the game.
Right. So the first 2, yeah, they're inexcusable. The last one, with Isaiah Simmons, I have to give the Cardinals defense credit in overtime because they did what they should have done all game, but there's a reason they put it out in overtime. They just blitzed Russell Wilson like no tomorrow. Yeah. And this offensive line is horrendously bad. It just is. It's horrendous. I mean, especially with all the injuries. They just blitzed. And then when they didn't blitz, when we thought they were going to blitz, Isaiah Simmons picked them off.
I personally, and again, I'm not a football coach, but if I was in that position, if I'm shoddy right there, you know what I'm doing? I'm like looking at it. I'm like, okay, we're in overtime. We got a minute something left. What's the worst that could happen? Run the ball once up the field, see if we can get some more yardage from the 50, maybe get to the 40 or something, and kick it. because our kicker had been showing that he could probably make it.
Probably is the best word
But
for a
like
guy like
that's the
Jason
thing.
Myers.
You either say probably and you're at the 40. Okay, you miss it. You're at the 40. You have a couple. You're in the same situation as a interception, except in that case you actually are showing that you're going for the win instead of just like I
A
don't know.
tie.
It's a little frustrating because it felt like passing there was kind of like a okay, we'll try and go for we'll like pass it and maybe we get the first down. If we don't, we'll kick it. We run out the clock, we go for the tie, whatever. It all in all, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about this game, is I don't know what it is, but I always find it very frustrating watching the Seahawks play in Arizona because it just for some reason the Seahawks always get big injuries and they always find a way to lose when they're in Arizona
Or tie.
or tie.
So my first question I want to ask you, Brandon, is like Carlos Hyde played pretty good, but DJ Dallas was in for a pretty good chunk of the game as well. Do you think that was the reason why they passed the ball so much was because they didn't have Chris Carson in for most of that game? Do you think that was a major reason why Schottenheimer didn't decide to run in that spot?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. But at the same time, you have to ask the question, like, I think it also had something to do with the fact that they decided to run the ball to kind of ice the game at the end of the game, on 3rd and something.
I think it was like 6 or something like that.
3rd and 6, which in a way, I mean, okay, they don't get it, and they're at like 4th and 1. You kind of have to ask, like, would it have? I mean, it. In a way, I kind of would have wanted them to go for it. I mean, because it's like, even if you don't get it, you're gonna lose the game anyway, you know. Like, but I don't know.
Ultimately, with the defense, I think this is something that we've been pretty consistent on. I'm not sure if I was as consistent on this on Friday, but I know Brandon and I really hit the nail on the head week 1. We were talking about that Falcons game, and we talked about how Jamal Adams really changes this defense. Ultimately, that is the biggest issue with the Seahawks defense right now and why it's bottom 20 in the league. Finally, I'll ask you both this question. Shane, I'll go to you. I said at the beginning, my opinion on the Seahawks hasn't changed at all after this game. Do you feel the same way? Yes or no?
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think they're still. I mean, Arizona, they're a good team. I mean, they are. They're they're inconsistent, but when we see them when they're on their highs like they are right now, they're at least offensively, they're really, really good. And so, I mean, it's a division matchup. We've talked about it in the past. NFC West games are always really tight, regardless of how good or bad the teams are. Going on the road, whatever. I mean, I said on Friday, I could see the game going either way. So, yeah, I think, once they get Jamal Adams back, which they almost did this week, so that means they probably will next week. Once they get him back, I think that'll make a huge difference because, I mean, he's basically like 2 defenders in one. He's a safety, but he might as well be like a outside linebacker, defensive end hybrid. And because I was watching film of him from the Atlanta game, and he blitzed on the defensive or on the line of scrimmage 11 times in the game. So, man, he got pressure most of the time. So, he's a big difference maker in that regard. And, I think that'll help. And, Irvin being gone is obviously not good, but I think Brooks will continue to get better and fill into that role. And I when it comes to coaching, I don't know. I think, I think it's time for Norton to go personally, but I don't know. I could be wrong. Have been before. And offensively, obviously the 3 interceptions weren't good, but it happens even to the best quarterbacks. And despite that, he still threw a few touchdowns and had many yards. So, I'm not too worried in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But
Brandon, did your opinion on the Seahawks change at all tonight?
No. Look, as a team, they performed fairly well. I mean, they are who we thought they were. Like the defense, they're gonna struggle. They're gonna do what they gotta do. They're gonna win. They're gonna whatever. Offense, they're gonna go out there. They're gonna be pretty dominant. There. I mean, hell, they were for a good chunk of that game. They were cutting through Arizona like a hot knife and butter. Look, as much as I hate to admit it, Arizona's good. Like, look, like, oh boy, like Kyler Murray, like. But at the end of the day, like, my biggest thing is when people are like, oh, hey, look at this new guy. Like, let's put him on a pedestal. I hate when people do that to players.
yes,
So,
thank you.
Right. That's my problem. When people put players on a pedestal, it bothers the crap out of me.
Kyler's definitely lived up to that pedestal, though.
Right, exactly. Like, oh, he's definitely on a pedestal.
Yes,
like,
he is.
But he lived up to it, man. He's living up to it. Absolutely.
Not really. Only
he wins a playoff game. Then
he's starting to. Exactly. He's starting to.
Fair.
Like.
That's fair.
Take his team. I mean, look. I mean, he's good, but like at the end
he's
of the
very
day,
good.
He's at the end of the day, the team, as I said, is still very inconsistent.
Yeah.
If they do this for like the rest of the year, like, okay, cool, I'll admit it, but whatever. Here's my thing. The Seahawks are 5-1. At the end of the day, like, I still think the Seahawks will end the season with a very good record. And I think they will do what the Seahawks always do, which is they have a rough time figuring it out until halfway through the season, and then something clicks, and they become dominant.
Looking at the NFC right now, I mean, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, who cares about the NFC East? New Orleans, who cares about Chicago? And then Seattle.
Chicago.
Okay, wait, but hang on. I look at Seattle and I go, are they not the best team in the NFC right now? I mean, if you're looking at the NFC in totality right now,
the best team in the NFC, honestly.
It probably is Seattle.
Like, because I don't know. Like, I look at every team in the NFC.
Every team has flaws.
That's the thing. Like, there's not one team that's like, oh yeah, they really stand out. They're really no. They all have issues.
But
you know
Seattle at 5-1. I look at them as a number 1 seed team right now. I do.
You know what I'll say? I'll say this: Seattle playing a game where they are mentally on it, and they're not making dumbass mistakes. That team, like this current team, like mentally on it. That's the best team in the league. This team tonight, they made some pretty dumb mistakes, like mentally.
Yeah.
That's why they lost the game.
Here's
not Cardinals. Just to end my thing.
Sorry.
And that's the reason I say the Cardinals. Like, that's the reason I wasn't like. I'm not about to be like, oh my god, the Cardinals. Like, in my heart, Seahawks should have won that game.
I agree. I think the Seahawks should have won
that game to the Cardinals.
I think the Seahawks should have won, but I understand why the Cardinals ended up finishing that. So my list of teams that are better than the Seahawks right now are the Chiefs, the Chiefs, the Ravens.
Maybe.
And my final team is the next team that we're going to talk about, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers.